shows like Stranger Things and The Crown have positioned Netflix as a power player within the TV space over the last couple of years, the company's film offerings have taken a bit longer to reach that same level. But now it feels like they're finally there. Looking at the huge list of quality movies that the service has churned out in 2019, as well as last year's Oscar-winning Roma, Netflix should definitely be taken seriously as a distributor of exciting movies. Long story short, there have been a ton of interesting movies released on the platform this year, and while yes, there is the odd stinker, it's way more fun if we just talk about all the good ones. 20 best Netflix original movies ranked. Number 20, The Red Sea Diving Resort. Ah yes, want more of that glorious bearded cap action? Well, the Red Sea Diving Resort has you covered. Netflix's mildly diverting true story spy drama features Chris Evans in all his hairy glory, and it is truly a sight to behold. The short version is that he's playing a brave Mossad agent tasked with the dangerous job of evacuating refugees. It's slow in parts but punctuated by several short, fast bursts of intensity that makes it an engaging enough 2 hours plonked in front of the TV. Number 19, Polar. Starring Mads Mikkelsen as a deadly killer, Polar should really have been better than it is, but even without maximising its potential, it's still a solid ride. Yes, it's a lot of style over substance, and yes, it has a pretty underwhelming story, but it's saved by an incredible lead performance and some highly entertaining shootout sequences. The finale is also solid and packs a decent emotional punch. However, there is a sex scene in a cabin that you categorically do not want to watch with your parents. You're welcome. Number 18, In the Tall Grass. After Netflix absolutely knocked it out of the park with its version of Gerald's Game, it's understandable that hopes would be high for another Stephen King adaptation. And while this movie doesn't hit the dizzying heights of that one, In the Tall Grass is a stylishly directed and scarily atmospheric little thriller. It does get a bit too bizarre as the third act progresses, losing much of that basic unnerving feeling of being lost in an endless field of tall grass, but that being said, those who enjoy the weirder side of King's works will probably find this to be a plus. Also, extra points to Patrick Wilson and his hammy as hell performance, which is a sight to behold. Number 17, Six Underground. Opening car chase aside, the first hour of Six Underground is one of the most incoherent and muddled sections of filmmaking you will see all year. There are flashbacks upon flashbacks upon flashbacks, far too many confusing montages, a lot of narration, and then even more flashbacks. Fortunately, the second hour is a big improvement, with the titular gang of 6 mercenaries embarking on a daring coup operation in Turkestan. Within, there is an action scene involving magnets and a boat that is one of the most creative sequences of director Michael Bay's career. And while it doesn't totally forgive the atrocious opening, it's quite a lot of fun by the end. Number 16, Between Two Ferns, the movie. Look, right, if you don't like Between Two Ferns, the show, you are not gonna like Between Two Ferns, the movie. It's that simple. If you're not familiar with Zach Galifianakis and his infamous talk show, then this is not the film for you, but go give that a shot and then maybe come back to it. If it is your jam though, then you will love this. Interviews with Brie Larson, Haley Steinfeld and Benedict Cumberbatch are hilarious, and at less than 90 minutes, it doesn't outstay its welcome for a single second. Number 15, The Laundromat. While Steven Soderbergh's latest outing is annoyingly uneven and doesn't always feel like he actually has a firm grasp on the story, The Laundromat has an insanely top-tier cast, and pretty much every single one of them delivers. Gary Oldman, Antonio Banderas, Meryl Streep, Jeffrey Wright, Sharon Stone, Robert Patrick, and David Schwimmer, to name a few, make the potentially dull subject of money laundering highly entertaining to watch. In Soderbergh's defense, he keeps things relatively breezy, and The Laundromat is a fun, if slightly muddled watch. Number 14, Fractured. Hello, this is your 2019 reminder that Sam Worthington still exists. Stop us if you've heard this one before though. A person's family suddenly goes missing, and everyone around said person is adamant that the family never existed in the first place. Yes, we've all seen Flight Plan and The Changeling, so it's quite hard to fully get lost in Fractured's mystery because, well, you will see the twist coming a mile away. But saving the day is Worthington himself, putting on one of the best displays of his career. Plus, the violence and gore towards the end does provide enough thrills to make it worth watching all the way through. Number 13, The Highwaymen. Woody Harrelson and Kevin Costner playing former Texas Rangers tasked with hunting down Bonnie and Clyde. Sign me all the way up and do it now. The finished product, I'm pleased to say, is mostly able to deliver the goods. While 1967's Bonnie and Clyde remains the superior movie centered around this story, The Highwaymen works due to its unwavering chemistry between its two leads, some superb production design, and a satisfyingly bloody conclusion. It's a bit slower than it should have been, and it does start to sag towards the middle, but if you can power through, you won't be disappointed. Number 12, The King. Hand on heart, right? The King is worth watching for the Robert Pattinson scenes alone. But that aside, it is a suitably epic historical drama chronicling the exploits of a young Prince Henry as he, reluctantly, becomes the King of England. Just like with The Highwaymen, there is some mesmerising production design on display here, with the movie beautifully selling the grit, dirt and grime of medieval politics and battles. All the while, Timothée Chalamet's stellar lead performance sells you on Henry's complicated internal struggle while keeping up that shield of po-faced determination that made him such a convincing leader. Those seeking a swords and sandals fix in this post-Game of Thrones world will definitely find a lot to enjoy here, with the King's top-notch acting and slick direction making the most of its powerful source material. Number 11, The Perfection. Following a talented young cello player who seeks out the star pupil of her former school, The Perfection has everything a memorable horror movie should have. Tons of bloody gore, plenty of twists and turns, a tight runtime, and all-in performances from its core cast. There's some seriously twisted stuff in this movie. Revenge, sexual assault, drug abuse, puking up maggots, take your pick. The only problem is that things do start to get a bit over the top towards the end, but if you like your horror movies to have a touch of infectious craziness in them, then you will enjoy just how disturbing this one gets. Number 10, Always Be My Maybe. Make no mistake, there are a lot of terrible rom-coms on Netflix. Like, easily 95% of them. And while Always Be My Maybe is hardly a cinematic classic, it's easily one of the best offerings from the genre in the last few years. Saved from the slumber of mediocrity by a pair of extremely affable leads in Ali Wong and Randall Park, a witty unconventional screenplay and a lot of hearty laughs. And then there's the icing on the cake. That Keanu Reeves scene. If you don't already love this man, Always Be My Maybe will convert you just in time for the Bill and Ted comeback. Number 9, Triple Frontier. Much like The Laundromat, Triple Frontier has one of the best casts Netflix has ever assembled. Oscar Isaac, Ben Affleck, Pedro Pascal and Charlie Hunnam are all on fine form here as a group of skilled soldiers pulling off a heist. The action is tense, well staged and easy to follow, with a lot of slow and precise camera movements amplifying the immersion. For a movie that most people will watch on an iPhone or a tablet, it's cinematic as hell, with production values as good as any major Hollywood production. If there is a fault, it's that the story is pretty basic and it all gets a bit "and then this happened," but what we get works very well. Number 8, El Camino. Even though it doesn't need to exist in the slightest, El Camino is a welcome return to the Breaking Bad universe. Kinda feels like reuniting with your university pals after a good few years apart. You're all getting on fine, yes, but it's really great to see them anyway. It also helps that the movie features a career-best performance from Aaron Paul, who does not miss a single step despite being away from Jesse Pinkman for several years. He's funny, he's tortured, he's violent, he's everything else in between, and proves that he is a far better actor than his underwhelming movie career since the show would seem to indicate. It's hard to say if people who don't like Breaking Bad will find anything to enjoy here, but fans of the show will get a massive kick out of this slickly produced 2-hour epilogue. Number 7, I Am Mother. It's quite hard to believe that I Am Mother was produced for reportedly less than $50 million, given its incredible effects look like they cost blockbuster money. The movie's production design, sound effects, cinematography and lighting are all top-notch, really coming together to craft a rich futuristic world that's backed up by strong performances from Hilary Swank and newcomer Clara Ruggard, the latter of which plays a teenage girl being raised by an intelligent robot called, yes, Mother. It's not perfect, of course, but I Am Mother is a triumph overall. A sumptuous sci-fi gem that is as engrossing as it is beautiful. Number 6, Fire, the greatest party that never happened. If you're having a bad day or a bad week or even a bad year, and you need reminding that there will always be somebody who's having a worse time than you, well, then Firefest existed for that exact purpose. For the uninitiated, this was a music festival set on a lush island in the Bahamas. It was billed as the next big thing and something that music lovers absolutely had to attend. It was organised by Ja Rule, promoted by the likes of Kendall Jenner, and guests were promised luxury accommodation, great food and some of the biggest musical acts in the world on stage. But the entire operation fell apart almost immediately. Instead of hotels or villas, attendees were greeted with tents and mud floors. The food was just basic sandwiches and all the big musical acts had dropped out. Fire, the greatest party that never happened, chronicles this whole disaster from its promising beginnings to its unbelievable shambles of a conclusion, and includes the greatest and possibly only scene of just how far one man will go to get some bottles of water. You know what I mean. Number 5, Velvet Buzzsaw. Ah yes, Velvet Buzzsaw reunited director Dan Gilroy with Jake Gyllenhaal. While the two couldn't quite recreate the pure magic they had with Nightcrawler, Velvet Buzzsaw is nonetheless a fun and quirky little horror thriller that amusingly pokes fun at the pretentious nature of the art scene. Thankfully, even if you have no interest whatsoever in said art scene, the movie lets you in on the joke. You'll get a lot of characters rambling on about various paintings, but when things turn nasty, it's their characters' involvement with these supposedly amazing pieces that is to blame. It got a bit of a critical hammering at the time, but honestly, Velvet Buzzsaw is a spooky and stylish ride for about 90% of its runtime. And I liked it, if that means anything to you. Number 4, Dolomite Is My Name. Eddie Murphy The Return, as its mother probably calls it, was in part a pleasure to watch. It reaffirms that yes, Murphy really is as talented as the likes of Dreamgirls and Beverly Hills Cop suggested, and that some of his recent efforts like, I don't know, Norbit, 1,000 Words and Meet Dave, were perhaps just projects that, I'll be kind here, he didn't have a lot of faith in. A biopic charting the career of multi-talented entertainer Rudy Ray Moore, Dolomite Is My Name is one of the best performances of Murphy's career. You've got the actor's charm and endearing optimism providing an irresistible draw, infecting the screen, his co-stars, and inevitably, you at home. It's clear that everybody had a blast making this movie, and it's likely that Murphy was a big reason for that. It is genuinely great to see what he can accomplish when he actually cares, and the resulting movie is a riotously good time that you will not want to miss. And hopefully that's my 10 grand in the post. Number 3, Claws. Now, I'll hold my hands up here and say that I might be so hot on Claws because I'm recording this video on Christmas Eve. But all festive bias aside, it's an utterly spellbinding, gorgeous movie that is easily one of the best seasonal films we've had in years. It is also, flat out by the way, one of the best animated films of the year, Netflix or otherwise. It's basically Santa Claus the origin movie, with J.K. Simmons as the Jolly Red Giant and Jason Schwartzman as the troubled young man who helps bring the Christmas spirit to the miserable town of Smearensburg. Predictable, yes, very, but immensely feel-good, funny and touching, also yes, very. The overall message and warmth will likely want to make you be sick, yes, but whatever, get over yourself. The ways that Santa's various gimmicks like the chimney, the cookies, the flying reindeer are all explained are so clever that you can't help but admire the creativity of the script and the skill of the animators. Wow, oh my god, you're right, just like a What Culture video. Number 2, The Irishman. There really isn't much more to say about The Irishman that hasn't already been said a million times. It's a Martin Scorsese flick, so anyone who considers themselves even a casual film fan should check it out, and if you love a good gangster story, then, well, this is a good gangster story. It's not Scorsese's best effort, mind. The Departed and Goodfellas are a bit sharper, and some of the Irishman's de-aging CGI can be distracting in places, but that's about the extent of any complaints. Provided you've got 3.5 hours to yourself anytime soon, this is probably how you should be spending it, and we'll just ignore the fact that it should have been a mini-series. Number 1, Marriage Story. Not the cheeriest movie you are ever going to watch, granted, but essential viewing nonetheless. What you have here is 2 powerhouse performances from Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson, the former of whom deserves an Oscar win, and the latter at the very least a nomination. It's a refreshingly brutal and honest look at the nuances of a breakup and a minimalist filmmaking approach that is accented with a few delightful Wes Anderson-style beats of humour. There is an argument scene in the middle of this film, and yes, it's the one from all the memes, that's one of the finest acting displays of recent memory. It's all made even more impressive by the fact that the camera will often stay still for an extended period of time, soaking up all the intensity of the scene and funneling it right into your eyeballs. Marriage Story is transfixing from start to end, and genuinely quite amazing just how many people will be watching it for free because they're still logged into their ex's account. So there you have it, those are the 20 best Netflix original movies of 2019. Let me know what you made of them all, as well as your shouts in the comments below, and of course don't forget to like, share and subscribe.